this brand has always been like, the positioning has always been about being doctor focused. The founder, in fact, founding team is a set of doctors. So there's been a heavy emphasis on clinical formulations, making sure they're tested. Every customer gets like a free consultation. And I think that positioning has really worked. And of course, the aspect that the doctors really care and, talk to each customer to actually give them their best solution. That has helped us have a very good retention. Right, so that personalization. See, I would say there are certain products which need, like, we can't sell without a consultation, right? So that category, it's almost 100%, right? But obviously, not everyone is comfortable with discussing these problems publicly. I mean, personally, I feel like these kind of issues, there's a lot of stigma attached to it. Like, and I think that comes to a larger conversation about what it means to be a man in the modern age, right? Whether in India or abroad, and unfortunately, genuine problems have to be brushed under because there's a certain sort of appearance that somebody has to keep up, right? But when we speak to these folks, and these are folks not just in tier 1 cities, but tier 2 cities, tier 3 towns, there is a genuine desire for solutions because it's really affecting them as people, right? And talking to a doctor and getting that clinical perspective removes that stigma. Right, and because most of it is anonymous, they're able to talk a lot more freely, and even the packaging, everything you have to think of a lot of things, like people might not want to get the product delivered at home. They might not want stickers on the labels, right? You have to think of all these when sort of designing the brand and the process. And the WhatsApp messages, you don't want to just send an order confirmation message. But yeah, going forward, we started working on this 6 months ago, and I think a lot of work was done in just bringing the visual identity of the brand up to par with, say, a Bold Care or even like a Durex. Next 6 months will be all about building our positioning in destigmatizing these conversations, right? So I think we might also love to do podcasts around this topic. We do have a significant presence in tier 2 and tier 3. The tier 1 audience, definitely right now skews a lot more towards brands like Bold Care or Man Matters and all of that. But that is slowly changing as we are sort of upgrading our brand look and feel as well. In general, I feel loyalty is higher in the tier 1 audience, and you see that across D2C, right? But there are pockets in tier 2 and tier 3 where we find extreme loyalty as well. So, and ultimately in D2C, it's just about finding loyal customers, because otherwise you're just burning money on acquisition. I think there is a genuine lack of content around the space, and genuine, I would say, vetted doctor approved content. And that's sort of the space we are trying to get into from a, I would say, brand perspective. Even if you take Johnny Sins has built awareness, but then do you really want to take advice from a porn star and an actor, right? That is the question we are asking, right? So I feel like genuine, authentic content would resonate with men or even women in this space, because it's not just a problem affecting men, it affects women also. Yeah, it is a challenge, and I think brands which bring on board a celebrity or influencer have an inherent advantage. But like we said, we're trying to build it a bit sustainably. We don't want to blow a lot of money on that kind of endorsement. There are other brands which, have got on board cricketers, for example, right? But I think we're trying to stick to the root of these are clinical questions. There are answers which are genuine, and we'll help you find those answers. So that's the approach. Yeah. So one of the biggest things which have worked well for this brand in the last year was a content partnership with a sexologist called Dr. Neha Mehta. Partnering with her, using her content across her channels has really built awareness. You could call her an influencer, but mostly on YouTube, I would say. So more content. So that type of content, but now we are getting into the space of, can we build that content ourselves, right? Because obviously they are not very sustainable to have these kind of content partnerships over a long period of time. Ultimately, you need your own brand properties and your own voice, right? And then, once you've grown that awareness and that retention, especially to a certain level, and your distribution channels are sorted, especially quick commerce, then you could think of going for a celebrity. That is the approach where we are going towards, and weirdly enough, that's also one space which AI is like really changing. I think the problem of connecting the right brand with the right influencer is something which a lot of companies are now trying to solve. We've spoken to quite a few, and there have been like, in fact, our founder himself has stakes in another company which is in this space, right? Which is connecting brands to the right influencers, right? And the whole idea is that there's so much content out there, and there's like an explosion of like people across the follower range. Like you have your 10K to your 100K to a million. Okay. And the approaches, what I've seen most companies follow is obviously having a stream of their posts and engagement, etc., and being able to match it with the right product, the right brand at scale, right? So it's not just like, this might work, that might work. And especially if there's examples of them having helped brands before, that can really improve that matching algorithm. So you're right. You do need a diversified portfolio of content creators. And I think what has happened, like if you look at what social media has done, right? Back in the day, you would have everybody at a certain level of fame, and then you would have like the Siberian tigers, right? Like your Sachin Tendulkars or Amitabh Bachchan. But now it's a lot more democratized. You have like a spectrum, and which allows us to obviously distribute budget, coming back to the budget question, more efficiently, which is a problem which AI is really good at. So whether it's performance marketing or influencers and brands, ultimately that optimization is easier. I think the answer would be depends, because like you said, the human has to be involved, and some parts of it have to be A/B tested, because especially the content creation part, it might not just be the influencer themselves. It's how you engage with the influencer and what the type of content you create with them, right? Like might not be the same for another brand. It really depends on the people and the creative vision they bring to that project. So I feel if you are clear on what sort of brand you're building, and you have a sense of the matching between the influencer and the brand, which is where AI can really help. But the ultimate choice of what content gets put out, and how you use it, how you leverage it in the context of your larger brand, those are all creative choices, and I don't think AI has reached that yet. I think content, its generation is going through I think probably the biggest revolution when you compare to every other industry, right? Because the amount of tools which are just coming out every day, which makes like very realistic content, is crazy. So in that way, it has leveled the playing field for even a newer D2C brand or any product just trying to reach customers, to actually not have to invest in such a large content generation team, and a lot more democratic in terms of the content getting outputted, right? But at the same time, there are challenges, like you said, like you can just create random stuff. See, I think again it comes back to having an authentic vision, like even if it is AI generated. Like for example, you can use something like a HeyGen, you can make a model of yourself and you can just keep spamming out like video after video, right? But if the message, like if you are giving thought about what is being said, right, and making sure the script you're vetting and that it aligns with the brand vision, I don't think there's a problem. Over a period of time, I feel it'll get tougher to actually recognize between real. Like already now I see videos which I have no clue like whether it's AI or not, right? Especially the talking head style video with I think that's seen like a big revolution. And all these B-roll type videos also, I think now I would say it's slowly, the AI share is like increasing day by day, right? But again, it comes back to, are you being authentic as a brand, and are you doing it for the good of people? I mean, obviously you have a profit motive, but you shouldn't be actively trying to harm people at least, right? Yeah, I think ultimately trust is all about like all the touch points, right? Where you have the interactions with the customer. And obviously if you're selling something physical, just the use of it, just the unboxing of it, like, is it actually working? That is the number one thing which builds trust. Like, have a product which does what it says, right? If you don't have that, I think like there's a saying which a mentor of mine keeps saying, which is great marketing. If it's a bad product, the best way to kill it is great marketing. Right? So I don't think I personally worry about it too much. Like, the focus should be on building something which people really value and use, right? And be authentic with how you communicate it. And if you're confident in the product, I don't say bend the rules, but do as much as you can to make it reach customers. But if the product's not great, then whatever you do, like, ultimately you're gonna die, because there's not much you can do to salvage it. I think what you said about their approach, right, is 100% true. We've seen it in like other companies, even in the pet care company, right, which is the tier 2, tier 3 audience are very aspirational in nature. So they will look up to like a more premium audience, see what they're buying, what they're using, and they will, if you have a platform where you can enable that visibility, like I've seen like baby care companies do it really well. Like this was one particular product, forgot the name, but they had an app where literally like moms and all could be influencers, and the founder was saying that what they're seeing is essentially that the tier 2, tier 3 audience is just following them and just making the purchases based on that. I think specifically for us, and even for a lot of D2C brands, tier 1 penetration has become a lot about the quick commerce game as well, which unfortunately does require a lot of burn. And why?
I don't know much about quick commerce markets.
Because the margins are not super great. Like the way they structure their, I would say, pricing, it's
All three or just specific?
I would say Blinkit more than others, but Zepto and Instamart are also like priced in a specific way. You can still definitely make profits, but if you are targeting a high growth trajectory, what we have seen and what we've seen in other brands is also that you have to burn quite a bit, right? So it ultimately comes down to the question of how much you're willing to burn or how fast you're willing to grow, right? So that balance is there. But if you can build that tier 1 penetration, obviously then you can leverage that like minimalistic to really grow in the tier 2, tier 3 audience. Obviously your Flipkart, Amazon channels are always there, and there what we have seen is it's become a game of reviews, testimonials, having the right set of content, but ultimately it just comes back to, is the product good, then all the marketing you do will have a compounding effect. If it's not, then it's very tough to like, it's almost like pushing that rock up a mountain. The ability to create fake / unreal versions of you is there right now, and I feel like this is a problem which can only be solved by two things, which is, one is the platforms themselves, whether it's a Facebook or an Insta or a TikTok or even a Pornhub, right? They have to take the onus to, and they have the technology to do that also, like be able to detect, okay, this has, then that's where the second part, which is the governments have to step in, right? And I think most governments will eventually go down that road where they at least force the platform to put a sticker. Like I remember during COVID, everybody had like, there's a fact checker thing, right? So you would need like a fake checker kind of a without that, I mean, there's no other way. There's absolutely no way. I mean, you'd still have your WhatsApp forwards and all, but ultimately it's all the platforms controlling the flow of communication, and they have the responsibility. And if they don't, the government has a responsibility to force them to, at least make it known that, and then it's up to you to decide whether to believe or not. See, there's two motivations, right? One, like you said, the governments could go a little more heavier than just fines and literally ban them. The second is if you get alternatives, right, where the USP of that alternative, like how Blue Sky is doing with Twitter or X, right? That, listen, we are going to be fair. We are going to be consumer focused. We don't care about profits, and transparency is key. Those alternatives could obviously force the bigger platforms to be like, okay, we'll also at least throw that. Unless, of course, it doesn't really eat into their profit margins too much. Ultimately, all of them are businesses, so they have to
show the money, show that you don't do that.
Yeah. But I think, ultimately, business needs customers, right? And if there is a large enough awareness that certain businesses are not prioritizing our well-being, like if it came out that Pepsi is putting like pesticide in there, right, there would be an impact, right? So similar awareness campaigns could force the larger platforms to be a little more cognizant of the fact that, okay, we still need customers, and if people are going to leave for other alternatives, and alternatives will pop up for sure, right? Then that's the only reason they would at least take the effort to, go down that path. But I think especially since 2017, 2018, the whole digital well-being movement which started, right, with that Tristan Thompson, I forgot his name, Tristan Harris. He had championed this whole movement in the Valley area, where at that time it was more about how platforms were sort of weaponizing our attention, right? Like all the algorithms were just psychological manipulation to just get you hooked in, right?
Yeah.
And now we're seeing the extreme end of that, where it's like an algorithm which also generates content which gets you hooked in, right? So but I feel over the last 2-3 years there have been like winds of change, especially with the bigger platforms, Meta, Apple, I would say Google. I think they don't have that platform yet.
Like the network.
The intent is there, but I think there's more push needed from governments and even the consumers to an extent to actually see like real change.
Yeah.
But I think it'll just be a case of like 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. Because the algorithm, the AI will also keep getting better, right? They'll figure out ways to like overcome it.